Alrighty. So, for those of you who are new to Momodora Reverie Under the Moonlight, it is a Metroidvania game, and we have a 20-second cutscene right now, so I can introduce it a little bit. So in this game, you can run, you can jump and double jump, and you can roll jump, which is what you can see Googler doing right now. Roll jumping, you press the roll button and the jump button at the same time, and you do both actions at once, and it's one of the fastest ways of movement. You also have access to a melee attack, which is your red leaf, and arrows, which you just saw Googler shoot off. And you will see the players using both in combat and for exploration. The bell that you just saw Googler pass by is at Trim just now. That's a save point. And later, they will also be a warp point. So this first area, the Sacred Grove, is one of the more difficult areas, surprisingly, because the imp enemies are very random. On easy mode, it's not so bad, because if you take a few hits, you get slowed down a little bit due to hit stun. But it's not so bad. But on the harder modes, these imps will kill you very, very quickly. So the players are making their way to this area, which is meant to introduce you to the mechanics. So you get to see a whole bunch of things. You get to see these poison clouds, which kind of hint at what's to come later in terms of player abilities. And you're also seeing them collect money in chests. Their goal is to get 80 money before they get out of the grove so that they can buy an item in the next area. Oh, I should probably explain this category, any percent. Because there are two major categories. Oh, actually, I'll have to do that later because Googler's already on the first boss, the arthropod demon Edia. And he's going for the quick kill. So Eddie has this attack that she does if you're far away from her, where she'll swing her tail ball at you. But if you get the timing just right, you can actually shoot the golden pearl on the tail, which will do a whole lot of damage. And he did it. So he used pause buffering there to make sure he's on the right frame to do that. And all of his arrows that he charged up hit the tail, and that's just an instant kill. DreamFox did not manage to get the quick kill, but it's not a very long fight even to do it normally. And for defeating the boss without taking damage, both runners get Edia's Pearl, which gives poison property to your attacks. Now in most games this just poisons anybody that they hit, but in this game it actually creates a poison cloud at the enemy. And what's important with that is, if you run into that poison cloud, you will yourself get poisoned. So the players have to be very careful with that, but they will be using this pearl because the poison damage is really helpful to taking down both regular enemies and bosses quickly. So Googler's already on the next boss, which is Mocha and the first Libella fight. Mocha is quite random in his movement, and it is important to not take damage again because the item that you get here is the single most important damage dealing item in the game. And Libella has a propensity to what we call dive, where she goes under the stage and doesn't take damage. But hopefully she'll be nice to both of our runners and not do that today. Right, looks like she was very kind to Googler and did not even attempt to dive. Let's see how Drim does. And you can see that poison cloud on her chest there. If Dream hits that cloud, you'll get poisoned. And she dove for Drim. So as you can see, she doesn't take any damage in this state, and all there is to do is wait, and it's something like a 10-second time loss. And because Googler got through it so quickly, he's already in the next area, where he gets a nice lovely cutscene, where Eri, this character, introduces a bit of the plot of the game. Which we're not going to see, but short version, there's a curse on the Kingdom of Karst, and our character Kaho is here to lift this curse. And the main source of the curse is the Queen, and we will have to defeat her. I should probably mention, these spikes that Googler is so gracefully sailing over are instant death. In this game, while you take damage from enemies and you can tank plenty of hits on easy mode, which is what the players are playing, spikes will instant kill you on any mode. And the players are not taking safety saves because those take time. So this area in particular can be very stressful. And some of this roll jumping that the players are doing, if they fail to roll jump and it is frame perfect, or it's not frame perfect, but it's the inputs have to come in on the same frame. If they try to roll jump over spikes and fail, they will just roll into the jumps or into the spikes, and that's instant death, so it is quite tricky. But both of these players are amazing, and what you're seeing here is just great smooth movement that both of them are known for. Trim sailing really close to the spikes there. This, on Googler's side, is the dumb drinking bird fight, or the name is Frida, but it looks like a drinking bird, and it's a bit dumb sometimes, so dumb drinking bird. But just before the fight, you saw Googler shoot an arrow at an enemy, and then just carry on to the boss. The poison from that arrow will kill that enemy, so they don't actually have to spend time doing it. And there we go, that's Frida. I'm being a bit quiet about Frida because, to be honest, I haven't fought Frida in a while, and I don't remember what the proper technique for her is. So I'm just impressed that it's all quick. I'm here for that quality commentary. You also noticed those on Dream's screen just now. We had the fairy beams, the light blue beams. Googler used that also, but this is a secret item that you have from the very beginning of the game. If you enter the Konami code, this fairy comes out, and she works just like any other item in that you have to save for your use of that item to come back. You only get one use of her. But she does a fair deal of damage, so she's very helpful on bosses. Alright, and now Googler's in the next area, which is the Whiteleaf Memorial Park, where he will be fighting a face that should already be familiar. Very soon. And even though Drum's still in the previous area, he's really not that far behind, because he just has to get the key and then go to Whiteleaf Memorial Park. So even though there's perhaps maybe a minute and a half, no less. Oh, he's already got the key because he get it before Frida, and I'm a dum-dum who forgot the route. But yeah, so there's still very much a chance that Drum can catch up. He's not that far behind. So the Libellary fight went very smoothly for Googler there because she didn't try to dive. So normally this fight, if she doesn't dive, is very quick, but if she does dive, you're going to be there forever. And Googler's not actually dead. Dying is the reward for that, for beating that fight. But the real reward there is you become a kitty. But you can still use your leaf. So, in cat form, which is like the big draw of this game, you're smaller, faster, cuter. I mean, and you're a cat. I mean, is there any better reward than being a kitty? You can fit through tight spaces, and you can access a lot of areas that we passed by before that we couldn't. And now Googler's just picked up the cat sphere, which lets you transform between cat and human form at will. And now Jim's there too. Caught up rather quickly. And now we have a very long elevator ride for Googler. The elevator leads back out to Karst City, which is where we were before. This is where the first Labella fight was. And then after that, the route heads immediately to a new area, which is going to be the Forlorn Monastery. And thank you, Hey-Ho. I'm remembering this game as I go. And Yado's right. The cat form is meant to be a curse from Labella, but Labella apparently hasn't been paying attention to the very lay of the land, because cat form gives us the access to the various parts that we need to lift all the other curses. Ah, evil always sows the seeds of its own undoing. You know, Googler is... I mean, Rums is doing a better commentary than I am because, as he said, Googler's roll jumps today are on point. He's just getting every single one of them. And he just two-hitted the knight, who is a mini-boss that's meant to be quite tough casually because you can't use your arrows on him, he's immune to them. But if you use the sparse thread, which is the item that the players got from Frida, which I totally mentioned, yes I did, it just kills him in 2 hits if you're close enough. So now, Googler and Drim are both backtracking to the beginning area. Because in cat form now, we can come down here next to the last save point there. And this is the Fror Ciel, which is an area where we get one of the crests, which I also forgot to mention. Early in the game, we pass by a glowing door that requires 4 Karst crests to open. We got one of them as a reward for beating Frida, which also gave us the ability to charge our arrows. But now we're getting this other one, which gives us the ability to warp. So now we can warp from every save point to any of a certain set of save points that we have unlocked. So it just lets us warp around the map quite conveniently. The Forlorn Monastery, which we briefly visited earlier, we visited solely to get that save point, because we can warp to it now. And out of the monastery we go straight into the Cinder Chambers, which is quite a fun area if you're really exploring it, but unfortunately in any percent we barely see it. And so Googler is heading straight for the next boss fight. In the other major category of this game, which is AVIB, where you collect all the collectibles and defeat all the bosses, including the one optional boss, you explore a lot more of this area, and there's some fantastic tight platforming. But unfortunately, here we're just kind of in and out. Because we got the warp fragment right after this boss, we'll just warp out. So this boss, if she gets close to you, she can just wreck you, and we really want her item for defeating her without taking damage, so Googler's taking it safe and focusing on arrows. And you did it. No damage, but it was a fairly slow strat. Like, that was a quick fight, but you should see it if, you know, you melee focus, and if you end on the right side of the map so that you don't have to wait for Cat to walk up to you and so you can get out of the room faster. It is seconds. Here's the next fragment, which gives us the ability to dash, as Googler's showing us. So now, in cat form, air dashing in combination with roll jumping and melee cancels is the fastest way to move. Because dashing's quick, and then when you roll jump as a cat, there's a bit of a delay normally when you move, or rather, when you roll, but if you use a melee attack, it cancels out of that, so it's quite quick. And hey-ho in chat saying, arsonist fights are the best when you just don't care and smash your face in with melee attacks, is completely right. Because normally, if your run is going well, you want to play it safe on the arsonist. Because it's so easy to get hit if you're not keeping your distance. But if you do keep your distance, it means you're using the much slower ranged attacks. She takes way more damage from your leaf than from your arrows. And now Googler has already made it back to the monastery and is heading for the next boss fight, where we will get the final crest. This is Fennel, best boss music in the game, and casually, probably the best boss fight, just because it's very intense, very duel-like, but in the speedrun we see her for like 2 seconds. You just use the sparse thread, you get a melee hit in, you poison her with your arrows, and then you use the Bachman patch, which we got from Lubella, the second boss fight. And she just kind of dies, and we barely see her, and it's quite sad. And now that Googler has the 4 crests, that glowing door opens, and we're into... well, not quite yet. Now we're into the Royal Pinacoteca, or as some of the runners like to call it, the Pina Colada, the Pinecone City, and any of a million names, because all of us suck at pronouncing Pinacoteca. But this is the picture gallery of the Cursed Castle. So it's leading up to the final area of the game, which is where the Queen is, whom I mentioned before. But first we have to get through this place, which has some tough platforming, a lot of environmental challenges, and those sword-wielding skeletons will wreck you. And then there's this room, which is full of enemies that are all out to get you and follow you around, but we have to do this room to pick up that item, which was the Sealed Wind, which we're going to need to get the true ending, which is required for this category. That item is needed solely for that, because without the Sealed Wind, we cannot get the ending credits for this game, because the ending, or the bad ending, doesn't give you the ending credits, so we don't count that as finishing the game. So Googler just hit the switch with his arrows, like a speedy boy, instead of running up to it and meleeing it like you normally would casually. Now he's to the Lupiar and Magnolia fight. Like the knight from before, Lupiar does not take damage from arrows, but she does take a lot of damage from the Bachman patch. Oh, I forgot to mention, the reward for defeating the arsonist without taking damage is the Pocket and Sensory, which greatly increases your damage with everything. Arrows, melee, and the Bachman patch. So the Bachman patch now just melts bosses. So the challenge now with the Bachman patch isn't damage, it's making sure it hits the boss. And finding enough time to cast it, but as you can see, our runners are having no trouble with that. And now, past the Lupiar Magnolia fight, Googler's already in the Cursed Castle, which is the final area of the game. And he's using the Bachman patch to hit an off-screen switch to open that blocked ladder there. Normally, if you don't have the Bachman patch, or you just don't know that you can hit the switch, you have to go the long way around the castle and hit it from the other side, but who's got time for that? Okay, and Dream is now on the Lupiar fight, while Googler is using that Sealed Wind that he got in the Royal Pinacoteca to upgrade his leaf by dipping it in some tea that's at the bottom of a well for whatever reason. And now our leaf is an ugly green color, but it is a little bit stronger, and more importantly, it is able to lift the curse of the Queen, which the red leaf that we had at the start of the game would not have been able to do. This green leaf is what makes the difference between the good ending of, or the true ending of the game, I don't know if we can call it good, and the bad ending. If you go into the final fight with the original leaf, you only get 2 phases, and bad things happen. But now we've unlocked the full fight. And now Dream is also fetching the leaf. And that was Kath, whom we saw in the arsonist fight, and she's taking a break. Don't mind her. It was a tiring fight. And then I think she had a spat with the queen, and she's very tired. And now is a mini-boss who is a floating vampire, but we call her the Clone Angel because she clones herself. And it's supposed to be a challenge to tell which one is the real one to hit her, because if you hit the wrong one, she takes no damage and just counterattacks. But the lowest one is the one that's real. So just 2 hits from Sparse Thread and Googler's done. And then, unfortunately, because I was explaining the Clone Angel fight, I didn't get to explain a strat that he did, where he damage boosted off an enemy to skip half a room. Hopefully I'll get to see that in a little bit and tell you about it on Dream Screen. And Googler is on the Queen fight. This is the final boss of the game. So as I mentioned, you need that upgraded leaf that you got with the Sealed Wind to unlock all of her phases. First phase is quite simple. So Sparse Thread and just a bunch of melee and ranged attacks. This fight is... the second phase is a little bit tougher because she's up in the air, but again, melee attacks with the pocket and sensory melt her, and you can shoot your arrows that are poisoned. And he's using the bloody tissue, which we got for defeating Fennel without taking damage, which sacrifices some health and makes us do 50% more damage. And with that item reactivated, and with Sparse Thread and Bachman Patch, the Queen doesn't get any attacks off before she's dead. And that's 2203 for Googler. So Googler wins her first round, but Dream is not far behind. And because I was commentating that fight, I forgot to commentate that little trick I mentioned earlier. Maybe in the next one I'll point it out. That's how fast these guys are. Like, when I'm playing this game, even when I speedrun it, I have time to explain every single trick. But Dream and Googler are both so fast that they do everything in like 1/10 the time that it takes to even name the thing. They're amazing. I mentioned earlier that these are top runners. They're both amazingly fast, and I'm really glad that we got this race between them. Alright, and Trim's on the final phase already, so all he's got to do is the Bloody Tissue again, Bachman Patch, and a bunch of melee attacks. And a couple of lucky hits from the fairy. Nice. And that's it. 2339 for Dream. Tainted Missive. Thank you, Kezi. Bloody Tissue is an item from the other category, from AVIP, that you hand in to fight a boss, to the optional boss. Or soft tissue. No, soft tissue is that. Bloody tissue is a reward for the optional boss. I'm getting all of my items confused. A plus commentary here. Rumspat, you are correct. AVIB is basically 100% without the map completion. In AVIB, you have to collect all the ivory bugs, which are these tiny collectible bugs. You have to collect all the health fragments, or vitality fragments they're called, that's what the V stands for, which upgrade your health. And there's the all bosses, which is all the same bosses that you fight in any percent, plus one hidden boss. The item to even pick them up, you don't even see it in any percent. Yep, Archpriestess Squires, because he says that is the optional boss, who is Fennel's sister, I believe. And she is a bullet hell kind of boss fight. It's quite interesting and pretty to look at, but unfortunately, any percent does not fight her. But if you're interested in that kind of fight, you should check out the various AVIB runs that the community does. We have quite a few dedicated AVIB runners, of which I know Drim is one. I think Googler's mostly any percent, but I don't remember, I'm an idiot. Alright, so I'm not going to explain the game mechanics again. Unless any of y'all need it. Feel free to ask in chat. But again, so here's the first chest. Because as I mentioned earlier, the runners need 80 money to get the... forgot the name of it, but the seed item that increases your power by 50%, is it? It's a minor increase, but it really helps with boss fights. It costs 80 money to get, and it's the first shop in the Cursed City. When I was first learning this run, those poison clouds in the grove gave me so much trouble because somehow, when I rolled past them, I'd always get poisoned anyway. And I never figured out why that was. It just stopped happening as I got better. But if you walk into those poison clouds, you get poisoned, and poison really hurts in this game, especially in the higher difficulties. Because it's not a percent health thing, it's fixed health. It just takes off a certain amount of health every tick for however many ticks. Alright, and I see Googler's going for the quick kill again, and he got it. It just, the arrows, charged arrows, there's 3 of them. If they all hit the tail, they just do massive damage. You deal a lot less damage through regular attacks to her face. And as you can see on Dream Screen, he just was also able to hit the Pearl with weaker attacks during Edea's normal attacks. And that's a great way to get a bunch more damage in while she's attacking. But it's not quite as effective as the quick kill, which saves, I think, 15 seconds? 22 seconds, I believe. There's the Mocha fight again. So Mocha is a very brief fight, but his movement is very random, and as a result it can be a bit of a tough fight. And just like with the Arsonist, the safest way to fight Mocha is from a distance with your arrows and poison. But that's very slow, so both of the runners are focusing on melee attacks as much as possible. And then when Mocha does that attack that he just did on Dream Screen, it's just slow. It is so slow, just waiting for those things to come out so you can start hitting them. Oh wow, Dream used the fairy and most of the race hit, which was fantastic, but then the Bella dove. So now we just sit here, relax, trying not to get hit by her balls. And oh no, Jim took damage during the Libella fight, and he's resetting because the item that you get for her, the Bachman patch, is extremely useful and saves a lot of time later, so at this point, it's actually worth the reset. If you miss the other boss items, it's not always worth the reset, but with Libella, like it saves so much traversal and it saves so much time on other bosses that it's worth to do this section again. So the game audio is on Googler right now, and it's very strange to hear this boss fight happening to the super soothing subterranean grave music. And 2 resets for Libella, or rather for Libella, and then 1 for Mocha. Yeah, this is how the run can easily go wrong. Like, both of these players, as I mentioned, are fantastic, but that fight can go wrong very easily, and you need it to go perfect. So in the meantime, Googler is struggling with this room. That room. The jump isn't like super tight, you just have to trust yourself. But if you hesitate a little bit on jumping, you can very easily miss the platform. And he's on Frida again. And I keep hesitating before I say Frida because I just keep wanting to call her the dumb drinking bird. Yes, runs. Dream took damage on Libella twice. Took damage first during Libella near the very end of the fight. She had barely any health left. And then he took damage on a redo to Mocha. So this is... Took a 3rd try, but you got it. Sorry, Dream, you're doing good. Libella's just not being kind. The first race times were... Oh, I've already forgotten. I'm very good. Hopefully someone in chat can remember. But I believe it was a 22, a low 22, and a... There we go, Wudenstein and Heiho have the times. Wow. Poor Drim is at the very beginning of the subterranean grave, whereas Googler's already at the end. But there's still opportunities for things to go horribly wrong. So, if Drim plays well, there may yet be a comeback. Unfortunately, the big mistake-prone areas are still quite a ways away, so there may be quite a bit of time difference between the players for a while. Wow, that fairy on Googler's screen is just a machine gun. Oh, and so Googler took damage on the second on the second Libella fight, which is not a problem because the item that you get for doing her damage less is not useful for the speedrun. So it is perfectly fine to take damage on that fight. And Chat's asking about Googler having dives, and no, I do not believe that Googler has had a single dive. I think Lubella's just been heckling Dream this whole time. He's gotten all the dives. But Dream's almost done with the subterranean grave. Or no, I am mistaken. He's going in for the free to fight. I misread the room. There's on the free to fight, and it's going pretty well. The fairy is hitting, dodging the death ray, and that attack that Frida just did is the most annoying thing it can do, and it just did it twice, where it disappears and reappears 3 times. Wow. The bosses are really just doing all of their jerk attacks for Dream today. But you did damageless, so at least he gets the sparse threads. Dream has a bit of a history of taking a little bit of damage on Frida in tournaments, or in races rather, and having to do the rest of the run without the sparse thread because to reset for it is just not worth it. And it is a bit of a time loss, but it's not much, and Dream's pretty good at it, but unfortunately we won't get to see that today. So we get to see all the threads. That knight that Googler just defeated with the sparse thread, if you don't have the thread, the way you defeat it is with the Bachman patch, which is a little harder to aim, but it kills them just as well. It's slower because it has a cast time, but just as effective. And now Googler's on his way to get the warp fragment again, to let him warp all around the room. So you can see a lot of melee cancelling as he's jumping. So there's no dash yet, so it's just roll, jump, melee cancel, roll, jump, melee cancel. And that's the fastest way to move until you get dash. In human form, the fastest way to move is by just rolling. But because in kitty form you get a little bit of a delay at the end of your roll, you have to cancel out of the roll with your melee attack. I guess the developers decided that Kitty moves too fast, let's slow her down a little bit. But that was a nice smooth warp fragment, and now it's time for the very long ladder and into the arsonist fight. Dream has gotten kitty form, but is apparently a little bit tilted by the earlier mess-ups and is having a little bit of trouble with movement. Cat form has a very small hitbox. Like, it's way smaller than the cat looks, so it can actually be quite tough to hit those tiny one-block platforms. So these runners, even when they're messing up, they're still making cat movement seem easier than it is. Casually, your first couple of times playing through this game, you will probably take a lot of deaths to spikes and to enemies just because you missed the platform in cat form. Oh, and Googler's having a nice, smooth, well-positioned arsonist fight. So if you end on the right side of the screen, that's less for you to walk to the next room. And Kath is fairly close, which means that when she runs over to you to talk to you, turns over to talk to you, it takes less time. And the runners keep saying no to Kath, and she calls you a roach. And, like, how can you be so mean to Kath? And she's so nice, she helps you fight. Like, when you start the arsonist fight, she's already down like quarter health. And speedrunners won't even hear her out. So rude. And now, a visit to Cotillard, our lovely cat lady, which I missed the first round. She gives you the monastery key, which is how you're able to get to Fennel, the next boss. And it is customary to count the cats in Cotillard's room, but I'm an idiot who got distracted and didn't count the kitties. Because the cats come in 3 colors, and their colors are randomized, and they're all beautiful. But we'll still get to see Cotillard on Drim's screen soon. There's the Fennel fight. Which, honestly, it makes me so sad, this fight. Because, as I mentioned last time around, best boss music, and it's such a fantastic fight. So if any of you haven't played this game casually, like whether you're considering speedrunning it or not, give that fight a casual try, because it is such a great fight. And the speedrun really doesn't do it justice, because it's over so quickly and you don't get to see the dual nature of it. That's dual with an E. It's just wonderful positioning. But speedrun, you just walk up to her, cast some spells in her face, roll away, and while she's prepping for her second phase, you cast the Bachman patch. Oh, Googler's messed up some what's normally simple movement, which I'm kind of happy to see. Because apparently I'm biased. On one hand, I want Googler to do super well, because who doesn't want to see a PB during a race? But on the other hand, he said no to Kath. And I will never forgive that. I am biased against all players who say no to Kath. So we'll see what Drim does. If Drim says no, then he'll get just as much hate from me. And Kezi in chat brought up doing the Fennel fight on Insane. So on Insane mode, you basically die to just about any damage. And let me tell you, I did the Fennel fight on Insane mode with casual strats, as I recall. It is exactly what you would imagine. It took a few tries. Apparently, while it was story time, I missed a big oof, and now I feel bad. My excuse is I have no idea what I'm doing. You fools, you think I know this game? Googler's already on his way to get the leaf, whereas Drim is only on his way to Fennel. just a bunch of minor movement mistakes on Jim's side that I think it's just stress of the race is getting to him. Because the movement can be very smooth, or you can get hit by a random thing. And you can miss some of your attacks on Fennel, and you got to see almost part of the fight, but unfortunately Jim reacted quite well, and did not show us much of the fight. And Jim accidentally unlocked a hidden area, which is an area that you normally visit during AVIP. So we'll call it habit and not a missed attack. It was going for the save point. Googler's on the Clone Angel fight again, and again, the low angel is the one that's the real one. And if you hit the wrong one, she doesn't take damage, and she just sends a whole school of flying fish down at you. Just raining down. I don't know if they're actual fish, but that's what they look like. And hopefully, we won't see them. Bird's getting in the way of Jim's movement. And Googler's on the final boss fight again. The juicy sound you hear is the fire effect of the pocket incensory that you get from Arsonist. It's very satisfying. And it deals a lot of damage. Oh, Googler missed an attack. It took some damage. Oh, did he miss the heavier? Oh, that was the oof, wasn't it? That would explain the lower damage, but still got through the final phase very quickly. Alright, well, Drim got the heavy arrows, so there will be some time gains there, because the heavy arrows do increase your arrow damage quite a bit. But even so, Googler is our winner overall. So GG. Like, even with a few mess-ups, and even with some dives on Livella, that is still a 21:57, which is a very good time. I believe Googler got a dive in the Libella fight this time, but I could be misremembering. I think someone mentioned that he did. Last run, you didn't. I could be getting everything confused. Y'all really expect me to remember 2 whole games of Momodora, especially when they're races? That's like 4 whole games! I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. Alright, so Jim's got his hibiscus tea leaf, and he's off to the nearest warp point, which is the one he came from, the Forlorn Monastery, and from there back to the Karst Castle. And Heiho has a great point that Googler got a sub-22 minute run without one of the big damage dealing items. Just very impressive. stashing off that ladder a little bit. Those little movement mistakes are what really add up to time in Momo runs. Like, it's very easy to focus on the boss fights, but even if you do perfect boss fights, it's still easy to lose minutes upon minutes just to minor movement mistakes. And there's the mini yeet, which I didn't get to commentate the previous times, but there it was. You hit the enemy there, and then you jump into her, and she knocks you back right onto the platform, pretty much. Not the mini yeet, that was the full yeet. Mini yeet is an AVIB. I'm sorry, the cat is so small, it's all mini yeets to me. In AVIB, there's another damage boost that we call the mini yeet. It works similarly, but with a different enemy in an entirely different room. Neat? Correct, that is the cat version of a yeet. Honestly, neat sounds like something you have to dab while you're saying it. Alrighty. Very quick final phase. I mean, it's normally quick, but that was super smooth. And Drim's done. And Drim says that somehow that was a 14-second time save for him. Alright, GG Drim. And now, since both players are done, I guess it's time for an interview when they join the channel. You know, thank you, Rumspats. Sorry for the loud typing, by the way. I'm not one of the cool kids with headsets. I have a big old giant desktop thing. And it looks like both of our runners are here for interviews. Good job, guys!
Yeah, thank you.
Like, even though both of you had some mess-ups, you both got solid times. I mean, 26-17 isn't so solid for Drim maybe now, but that first run was really good.
Yeah, I got very tilted when Lubella dived in that second run, and then...
Yeah, it looks like everything just went wrong from there for you. All the bosses just did all their worst attacks for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Frida teleported like 4 times in a row. It was just
It was awful.
But yeah, I ended on a good split at least. So yeah, I started the first race well and ended the second race well at least. So I'm not unhappy with my runs today at least.
I remember the first round I was doing a little bit of dancing with Adea there. I thought that was pretty interesting to start off with.
I'm just really impressed by your quick kill skills on her.
Thank you. Fortunately, those went well when they did. I was surprised I managed to set it up fine the first time. So.
The second time you also got it.
Right.
That's why I'm so impressed. I mean, that's something I struggle with just casually, and I'll get it like once in a gazillion tries, but you just go for it in that tournament and get it both times. That is super impressive.
But I will say, I only did pause buffering throughout the entire tournament because I wanted to play safe. So I wasn't taking the hardest, strategy.
It's still risky even with pause buffering.
Did you do the risky quick kill setup or?
I stood back.
Okay, well then it's not that risky. It's just
It's still timing, and timing is hard, y'all. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
both are
that is.
so good that you don't appreciate how hard
I
it
mean,
actually
yeah, it's hard, but it's not a risky strat to try to use, because even if you fail the strat, you still survive and you get some good damage in on the regardless. So
is.
it's a
Still
very
a
safe
hefty
safe.
time loss.
I would have probably gotten myself poisoned from that cloud that sits in the back. If I'll be entirely honest with you, if I stay any longer on that, and I've said this, I'm probably gonna end up getting poisoned because I just chip away her HP when I am not getting it. So
Yeah.
it's a little risky if I mess it up.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you go for the quick kill, she ends up to the left of the stage, whereas normally she'd be in the middle or even to the right. So it's very easy to end up with your back right to the poison cloud. Whereas if you don't go for the strat, it's very safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with my runs. They had their hiccups though. There's a few moments where I just kept slipping up a little bit, but it went pretty well.
Yeah, I had some really good segments. I think I got like 5 golds during these 2 runs.
Oh,
So
wow.
Holy
Congrats.
crap!
yeah, so now my sum of best is down to 22:36. I think I improved it by like 14 seconds or something, so that's not too bad.
Wait, you PB'd second round?
No.
Some of best.
Well, right.
But
I didn't
you
think
were-
about the actual time. I
Your
heard
first
14
round was
seconds
pretty close
lost.
to that, though. You weren't that much over your sum of best.
In my first run, I was like less than 30 seconds away from my PB. So
That's
yeah,
pretty
that
good.
was solid. The second run, like if we remove 3 minutes from that was lost due to basically resetting Lubella, then I wasn't far behind. I think I got like a 26. It says 26:18 in SRL, so I was just a few seconds behind my PB. If Lubella wasn't being a big
Yeah,
jerk.
Bella was very mean to you today.
Yeah,
When she wasn't diving, she was just smacking you.
yeah,
And Mocha. Mocha
yeah,
bullied you.
yeah. Tons of psychological warfare today.
Chat wants to know who is best girl if Googler is top poke.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that is your right as a tournament winner.
I realize that time has come. Well, as a member of the community, ever since Two Stop had given Cotillard,
Mhm.
need to get that name out of my head. It is not the right one. I was not satisfied with that. So, as time went on, up until the second race, I've put a lot of thought into it. I've weighed my options, and I think a choice that I would be happy with long term would be Kaho Rhino.
That is a very solid choice.
That is a solid choice.
I'd say so myself.
Even those who may have their own favorites will will agree that Kavo is a solid choice.
That is true.
No one hates Kavo.
She does climb the actual best girl ladder boss, so
She does.
so she gets a
Not
lot of
in any
points for that.
percent. Chat hasn't seen it.
Well, any percent is not the true category, so
Just this blatant disrespect.
I mean, this tournament isn't even run on a real real difficulty.
Yeah. This is a false category.
Yeah, like any percent and easy. Like you could at least gotten one thing right, like AV insane. That's 2 things right. Yeah. Okay. But it has been fun. It is fun.
Trim is the dedicated, insane Ava brunner.
Yes.
This is
That
what
is
we
true.
deal with on a daily basis in the community.
Yeah, I have
new world record holder.
I have a blatant
Yes?
bias towards EV insane. So
Give me
take
your
what I
pluses
say
and
with a huge grain. With some, what is it called? With
Just a
a
mountain
grain
of salt.
Yeah, a mountain of salt at least. Maybe 2 for good measure.
Just an ocean's worth of salt.
Yeah. Oh, what if we had an ocean worth of salt and then we could let Libella dive into that? That would be good. Instead of her diving away from our damage.
Diving into damage.
Diving
Yeah.
into damage would be nice. But no, when the Bella dives, that's it.
And yeah, and thank you very much for doing commentary last minute like this.
Yes.
I
Please
don't know how
watch
it
the
went.
VOD.
I will watch the VOD.
No!
Yes.
It was blatant bias all around.
That's as it should be. As it should be.
Alright, well, good job, both of you again. And I guess we should wrap this up. So thank you for joining me for the interview. And I guess we should just leave the Speed Gaming channel to all the other cool Speed Gamers. And
Good
thank you, chat, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Speed Gaming, for setting things up. And I appreciate playing with you again, Dream. It was fun doing this tournament.
It definitely was very fun doing this tournament, and let's see if we do another one next year. It would be fun to have a yearly tournament.
Annual tournament, yes. And all we have to do is just have people poke everyone about it. Just if someone wants it, we'll remember to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe in the future. I don't know, because I don't know how many of these people are still be playing by then. But
clearly, we just need to make it into a monthly event then.
Yeah, there we go. Just do all this 3 months of just playing, all
3
crunched
months
down
of
in
playing
under a
in
month.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we are speedrunners, so I guess it wouldn't be too bad.
All right. This sounds like internal discussion, so bye, y'all.
See ya. Have a good one, everybody.
Goodbye.